Someone made a decision about 100 years ago that American buildings should only need to last a few decades, and it's quietly reshaping what it feels like to live somewhere in this country. To understand why, we need to go back to 1945 and a construction method that was never supposed to become permanent. Picture yourself walking down a street in Porto, or Bologna, or Ghent. The buildings around you are stone. The facades are thick, deliberate, carved. Above a doorway, a date, 1748. The street has been here longer than the United States has existed. The building isn't a museum, it's an apartment. Someone woke up there this morning, made coffee, looked out a window that has framed the same street for nearly 3 centuries. Now picture a retail strip on the edge of any American city. Built in 1987, the roof is sagging, the stucco is cracking along the seams, half the units are empty. There's a sign out front, coming soon, new development. The old building is 37 years old. It's already being demolished. Why does one civilization build to last and the other build to be replaced? Start with what's normal for most of the world. Walk through the older districts of almost any European city, and the buildings predate living memory. Many predate the country that now governs them. In Germany, in the Netherlands, in France, structures routinely stand for well over a century. Not because they're protected as monuments, but because they were built with the expectation that they would. Buildings aren't consumer products in most of the world. They're infrastructure, they're geography. They're expected to outlive the people who built them. In the United States, commercial buildings are routinely demolished within a single lifetime. Residential ones do a little better. But the churn is real and it's visible. In the vacant lots, the perpetual construction zones, the neighborhoods that never quite accumulate enough history to feel like somewhere. This didn't happen by accident. Before we get to the man who made it happen, there is a specific moment, a specific set of decisions that locked this in. I want to ask you something. Think about the building you live in right now. Does it feel like it was built to last? Or does it feel like it's already waiting to be replaced? Hold that thought, because by the end of this video, you're going to see it differently. The story starts in 1945. World War II ends, and America faces an immediate, massive housing crisis. 16 million men come home. They want houses. They want them now. The country needs to build faster than it has ever built before. And it needs to build cheap. But the government had already changed how Americans bought homes. The Federal Housing Administration, created in 1934, had standardized the 30-year fixed-rate mortgage. That single financial instrument quietly redefined how long a building needed to last. When you spread a loan over 30 years, you don't need the building to survive a century. You need it to survive the debt. 30 years, maybe 40, long enough to satisfy the bank. After that, the math starts to favor replacement over repair. That is why so many American buildings feel less like places and more like temporary containers for a financial plan. The FHA didn't just finance homes, it standardized them. It published minimum property requirements that shaped what builders built and what banks would lend against. Those standards rewarded speed and volume, not longevity. And then, into this landscape came the merchant builders. William Levitt is the most famous, but he wasn't unique. Across the country, a new kind of developer emerged who thought about housing the way Henry Ford thought about cars. Standardized components, assembly line sequencing, crews that moved from lot to lot, performing one task, then moving on. Levittown, New York, built in 4 years, 17,000 homes. The walls were wood frame, the foundations were slab. The material was whatever was fastest to source. Levitt himself said it plainly. "We are not builders, we are manufacturers." That framing matters. A manufacturer thinks in production cycles, not centuries. A manufacturer plans for the model to be updated, not preserved. The house was a product. Products get replaced. Light wood frame construction became the American default, not because it was the best way to build, Because it was the fastest and cheapest way to build at scale, right then, under pressure, in 1948. And then it just stayed. Building codes locked it in. Lending standards were written around it. Entire supply chains organized themselves to support it. By the time anyone thought to ask whether this was the right system, it was the only system most Americans had ever known. The emergency justified the method. The emergency ended. The method stayed. Now let's talk about what this actually costs. The logic of replacement embedded itself into real estate culture too. The flip, the teardown, the value-add renovation. American real estate vocabulary is full of terms that treat buildings as temporary assets to be cycled, not permanent structures to be maintained. In most of Europe, demolishing a functional building is controversial, sometimes illegal. In the United States, it's a business model. The debris alone is staggering. The US generates hundreds of millions of tons of construction and demolition waste every year. By some estimates, more than twice the volume of all other municipal solid waste combined. Every teardown, every failed strip mall, every subdivision that didn't make it to its 40th birthday. It goes somewhere. Then there's the carbon. Building materials are among the most energy-intensive things humans produce. When a building is demolished after 35 years and replaced, you pay that carbon cost twice. Sometimes 3 times across a single century on the same plot of land. And there's a cost that's harder to measure. Neighborhoods need time to develop character. The coffee shop that's been on the corner for 60 years. The apartment building where your grandmother's friend still lives on the 3rd floor. The street that feels like somewhere because it has accumulated enough history to mean something. You can't manufacture that. You can only wait for it. And American construction culture has never been good at waiting. None of this means Europe got everything right. Permanent buildings in the wrong place, built for the wrong reasons, can calcify inequality just as easily as they preserve character. Preservation can become a weapon for exclusion. And the post-war building boom, for all its architectural shortcomings, housed millions of families who had nothing. Speed had a human value too. But there is a difference between building quickly out of genuine necessity and building cheaply as a permanent cultural default. Go back to that Porto street for a moment. The building with 1748 above the door. Someone is living there right now. They didn't choose permanence, they inherited it. The culture around them assumed, without debate, that what gets built should last long enough for the question of replacement to feel absurd. In America, that assumption was quietly replaced by another one, that what gets built is a starting point, a placeholder, something to use until something better comes along. Most Americans have never lived in a building that was designed to outlast them. Think about what that does to how a place feels. Think about what it does to how a place means. Drop your answer in the comments. Does the building you live in feel permanent? Or does it feel like it's already on borrowed time? I read every single one. If this is the kind of question that gets stuck in your head, why America looks the way it does, why it feels the way it does, and how it all got this way, stick around. Because next time, we're going to talk about why American streets have almost no shade anywhere. And the reason is more deliberate than you think.